Isiah Thomas and Grizzlies point guard Mike Conley sat down with 5 students from Grizzlies Prep for a discussion and a visit to the site where Dr. King took his last breath.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. Somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
When you talk about Memphis in terms of the role that it's played, it's been, one of the most significant places, because when you talk about I am a man and what the sanitation workers were striking for, his speeches, the assassination at the Lorraine Motel, this place is so rich with civil rights activism. By coming up in this community and being a part of Grizzlies Prep, these kids, they're getting a very solid foundation.
Grizzlies Prep began as a direct response to a really serious crisis that Memphis was experiencing. In the early 2000s, there was a report that came out, thousands of young men in this city graduating from high school, and they haven't scored an 18 on their ACT. The Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies, some of the leaders, some of the owners came together to impact the young people of this city.
It's important because, the kids are our future. Through Grizzlies Prep, I want to try to provide these kids with a path, close the gap to allow them to have, equal opportunity as other kids in different areas.
We're going to be talking about Martin Luther King and his significance in terms of social activism and his impact that he had on the world. When you think of Martin Luther King and social activism, what comes to mind?
I think of him as a very good civil rights leader.
I think about what can I do in my community to help others.
I think about voices that want to be heard, that aren't afraid to take risks just to be heard.
I think of Martin Luther King as a person who fought without violence, and also as a man who always stuck up for what he believed in and wanted to eliminate all Jim Crow laws.
Man, this guy really had guts to step up for what was right, and I just want to be like that too. Because right now we're just going backwards instead of forward.
And how do you define racism?
Because racism is basically judging on the outside. They don't judge about the inside, but they mostly judge about the outside.
Like the police system, how they're supposed to protect everyone, but they show hatred or acts of racism toward one race. Like, that really doesn't go well with the thought of, protecting everybody when they're against a race.
What are your thoughts about the police in general?
I've been told to, if the police gets involved in the situation, cooperate from every word, cooperate with every word they say from start to finish.
Some police are trying to do right, but then they have their peers who try to arrest African Americans whenever they're just walking around the street.
I feel kind of scared because I've been thinking about this. Somebody got pulled over and they got shot, accused of having a gun when he put his hands up and he really didn't have a gun. I'm kind of scared if I ever get my driver's license now, and I'm going to try not to mess up speeding, but if I do mess that up, I'd just be scared, really, really scared, because then they'd ask me to get out the car and put my hands up, and then they'd have guns pointed at me.
I do a lot of work with the police. Not all police are bad. There's a thing where we have to try to communicate, try to get to know each other, try to understand each other better, and that's something that I think the police are trying to do a much better job of. I think people, as Black Americans, we have to be able to come to them and be able to speak to them and tell them how we feel and feel safe about it. I mean, they're remarkable kids, man. I don't think I was even remotely close to thinking about the things that they're thinking about and the social injustice that they're aware of, and all the things that they're trying to change in our world is unbelievable.
What we're hoping for, and what Martin Luther King was hoping for, is that one day we wouldn't have to have these conversations, and that everybody would be treated with dignity, respect, and be able to step to the table with their own humanity.
It's our responsibility to be active in social activism, because what better way with our platform to be able to reach so many different people, to be able to help those, give those a voice who don't have one, to try to continue to work what Dr. King left us with. I wanted to ask you guys what's your thoughts on sports athletes, professional athletes, and their roles in social activism today.
Well, I think that I like the way that some people are kneeling and raising up the fist or standing up for what's right. We were also talking about this article in ELA to where 2 athletes in the track, even though they won, they still held up a fist with a glove on. And I just think that I respect all the athletes, but I respect them more when they stand up for what is right and what we are doing to shape this country into a great country.
Yeah, I agree. For professional athletes, I think it's a responsibility. I think everybody has a voice, but when you have opportunity to have a platform like Kaepernick has, myself, anybody who wants to take part in social activism, and you can voice your opinion and you can voice and stand for something bigger than yourself, and be the voice for those who cannot speak up, is admirable.
Colin Kaepernick influenced me because he was the first one in the NFL to take a knee, speak out against this racial violence that was going on, and he was willing to lose his job just so the violence could stop.
Your generation, there's a continuance of still fighting for equality. We need you to, see all those books behind you? We need you to read. We need you to read. We need you to become educated and speak, voice, and be active, right? That's what, activism is. You're voicing and you're calling out and you're speaking to the wrongs of society and you're trying to right it for the next generation.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Dr. King dreams, what it means to my generation is that every race, every color can belong together in one building and won't have a problem about how they look, how they speak, or how they just interact with things.
On Thursday, April the 4th, 1968, Dr. King stepped outside on this balcony and he was getting ready to go and eat dinner at a local Memphis minister's home. At approximately 6:01 p.m., he was tragically shot by an assassin's bullet.
Dr. King's dream to my generation means that we should keep moving forward no matter what obstacles stand in our way.
Dr. King's dream means to the youth of my generation that he wanted racial segregation to end and everybody to be equal.
So how about now? Oh, can I light this burning